So here we are once again. Yes, I think this is something I've wanted to do for quite a while. Obviously, it's sort of been a year really since Labour got in, and I am, as they say, still a card carrying member. Um, what do I, honest thoughts, cards on the table? Um, they generally haven't done that bad. Like, honestly, they generally have not done that bad. And I know there's already some people screaming and on their keyboards just at that, me saying that very thing. But generally, they just have not done that bad. Not as bad as people have made it out to be. Have they done some things that I disagree with? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have said this since the very beginning, even before they came in. There's no such thing ever as a perfect government. You are never, ever going to get a government that does like 100% exactly of what you do, of what you want it to do. It's just impossible. So, what have they done? And I think one of the things I'm very interested in, I think why I want to cover this, is that there's now a lot of myths that have sprung up about like Labour's first year in power. And I think it's time to do a little bit of myth busting. Because if you follow a guy called what's his name, Sebastian Salek on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Threads, he's constantly every week going, guys, there's all this happened this week that no one's talking about from the media to anyone else, but these are actually quite good. These are actually going to have some really positive effects. Like I say, go follow him on Twitter and Blue Sky, etc. The guy keeps on pointing out, hey, Labour's had a win here, Labour's had a win here, Labour's had a win here this week. And I think, again, before we get into it, I think the reason why is since 2016, we have had a government that has been not normal in the best sense of the word. It has not been normal. We have not had a government that has actually governed, actually got on with the business of doing stuff. For a basic, pure example, the last sort of term of the previous government only had about 4 bills being read. MPs were complaining of being bored because there was nothing for them to do. Like, you've had over 100 different bills pass through Parliament. Over 100. That is like how it normally should be. And I think people have gotten used to the chaos, the unnormal state that we've had. And when it goes a bit normal, people get a bit jittery. Like, why aren't you acting like that? Why aren't you doing that? You saw this during the PIP stuff. The paper was like, oh my God, U-turn, the government is about to collapse. And collapsed. It collapsed, yeah. So let's get on into this, because I think this is very, very, very worth much so covering on this point. So before we do get on into this, please do remember to click on the, of course, like, share, and of course, subscribe button. Of course, don't forget to ring the bell as well. So as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. And of course, down below, there is links to the Patreon page, the YouTube thank you button, there's the Buy Me Coffee link, and of course, there's YouTube membership button down below as well. So let's crack on then into this as we cover this. So this is what we're going to be covering. So this is Labour's first year, three mythbusters to use on the doorstep. So it has been a year since Labour took office and a lot has changed. And as members, we see that progress clearly. By explaining it to voters is, of course, much harder. When someone pushes back, of course, on Labour's record, it is very easy to give a muddled answer if you are not prepared. That is a missed opportunity, whether you are on the doorstep, sparring on Twitter, or even debating in the pub. Because if handled right, there is a chance now to turn a very skeptic into a supporter. The good news is, Labour's first year tells an incredibly compelling story. You just need the right language to land it. Fortunately, there is a clear framework you can actually use to do that confidently. So here's a cheat sheet for you for handling now the three biggest challenges voters throw at Labour's first year. So, what are the big ones they're doing? So, the big one is Labour has no narrative. And of course, that theme, of course, ties to Keir Starmer's agenda together very neatly. Challenge two, nothing has changed. And of course, three tangible improvements you can actually already see. And of course, the third one, this is the big one that you see quite a lot, that Labour is just the same as the Tories. And here are three examples that prove the gap between them could not be wider. So, here's the first one. The first one, Labour has no narrative. So many, of course, claim that Labour has no story. They say it, of course, lacks a theme that binds its agenda, which makes every move feel very rash and reactive. That could not be more wrong. There is a golden thread that runs through Starmer's platform. Everything his government does is about security. It is obvious at first, but once you see it, you'll notice it everywhere. Banning, of course, no-fault eviction so that renters can feel secure in their homes. Unfair dismissal rights from day one so that workers can feel secure in their jobs. 300,000 extra neighbourhood police so we can all feel secure in our communities. But it also guides Labour's decision in moments of crisis. For the example, when the 20 billion black hole was discovered, Rachel Reeves held one line on financial discipline to keep Britain economically secure. And when the US wavered on Ukraine, Starmer raised defense spending now to strengthen our national security. The focus on security makes perfect sense for three key reasons. Firstly, remember what we inherited. The Tories left us with striking train drivers, a hollowed out NHS, and a cost of living crisis that strained household budgets. Daily life became increasingly uncertain, so reversing that was crucial. Security, has also had a basic human desire. In Malof's hierarchy of needs, this sits above only the basics like food, water, and air. And after 14 years of Tories, bookended by a financial crisis, a global pandemic, it was the obvious place to start. Finally, security produces popular policies, workers' rights reform, increased defense spending, banning no-fault evictions, all poll incredibly well, even with non-Labour voters. So, the second one, that nothing has changed under Labour. So a lot of voters will complain that Labour has done nothing in its first year. The secret of responding to this is to listen very carefully for the real objection and handle that instead. Most Brits do not follow day-to-day politics closely. And again, they do not follow politics day-to-day closely. No one can actually tell you, for example, what happened very specifically within last week of Westminster. This is why, again, I highly recommend you follow Sebastian Salek. He's very, very good at that, and highlighting and breaking down this is what happened this week in Westminster. So, that, of course, doesn't mean that we see the raft of positive changes that Labour is making week after week. So when voters say that nothing has changed, they're usually telling us that nothing has changed in my life. It is a pretty subtle point, but it makes their view more understandable. Politics affects people very differently, and depending on your situation, the possibility that they haven't yet felt impacted by Labour's policies. But for many others, that change has been unmissable. Here are some tangible ways that has happened. Millions more NHS appointments, which has helped to bring waiting lists down now to a 2-year low. Free breakfast clubs for over 180,000 pupils, rolling out nationally from September. Water company fines used to help clean up rivers, lakes, and seas. So you notice, bear in mind, normally around this time of year, we have a lot of big news stories about sewage discharge, sewage in this river, sewage in that river. So far yet, I haven't seen any of those stories. You'll notice that because that has come in. We normally see that quite a bit. Hasn't happened yet so far this year. And then this is the big one. I see a lot under my channel, under the stuff that I talk about when we talk about this. So one of the realities that Labour is, of course, facing attacks not just from the right, but also from the left. Some on the far left argue that Labour's promise of change serves the very same interests as its Conservative predecessors. The reason they say that is that governing often requires to make choices that, while potentially unpopular in the short term, bring long-term benefits. Not every policy can be as radical or as quickly implemented as we might want. But the truth is that Labour and the Tories have fundamentally different political compasses. Labour aims for fairness, community, and yes, security, and the Tories promise have prioritised free market freedom, deregulation, and individualism. The rift is stark when you look at how they've approached some of these policies. Onshore wind, the Tories banned onshore wind farms and handed out more oil and gas licenses. Labour stopped the licenses and lifted the wind farm ban, speeding up clean energy production. On the asylum, the Tories blocked the Home Office from processing most asylum claims and spent millions on migrant hotels and the failed Rwanda scheme. Instead, Labour scrapped the Rwanda scheme, started phasing out hotels, and now has increased the number of applications processed by 116%. Again, strikes. The Tories made it harder to strike, increasing the ballot thresholds and notice periods, and of course, the minimum service requirement levels during the strikes. Labour has now scrapped the minimum service levels law and reversing other key restrictions. Meaningful changes happens very quietly and in small places. This is what Labour has so far done this year. It is not our job. It's now our job to put all those pieces together to help voters actually see the full picture. And I really do agree on that. I think there is a story here, a very, very compelling narrative that Starmer's first year has been about not only just the security of the UK, making sure that, if we are attacked, that we are defended, that we as communities, as people are defended as well, that we have security in our home, that we have security in our job, because that really matters to a lot of people. If you have those things, they are really good to have, to make sure that you're not just going to get fired suddenly or anything like that, or that your landlord just can't come along and just evict you. So a lot of those changes slowly rolling out, slowly happening. I think it will take a lot of time for people to really realize that, but it's something that we need to talk about more and really highlight the fact that actually Labour's first year, there have been some missteps. I don't think they should have U-turned on the winter fuel allowance. I absolutely don't think they should have U-turned on that at all. I think having that means tested is perfectly fine. But there you go. But yeah, let me know what you think down below in the comments. So as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.